Before we begin, take a small moment with us. If you find this episode helpful, stay with us till the end. And if you're listening on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, follow Power English Speaking so you don't miss future conversations like this. These episodes are made to grow with you, slowly and honestly.
Now, let's start somewhere real.
Saying no sounds like a small thing, just one short word. But for many people, it carries weight far beyond language because it touches fear, guilt, politeness, and the quiet worry of being misunderstood.
And if you're learning English, that weight often feels heavier.
You might know the grammar.
You might know the vocabulary.
But when the moment comes, when someone asks you for something and your body already knows you don't want to agree, your mouth hesitates, your thoughts rush, and suddenly English feels smaller than your emotions.
So instead of saying no, many people smile.
They say yes when they don't mean it.
Or they say maybe, hoping the situation disappears.
Or they stay silent and later feel uncomfortable with themselves.
This doesn't mean you're weak.
It means you're human.
Even in our first language, saying no can feel uncomfortable.
Because we're taught from a very young age that being polite often means being agreeable, that kindness looks like cooperation, and that refusing something makes us look difficult, ungrateful, or cold.
Now add a second language to that.
Add the fear of sounding rude.
Add the fear of choosing the wrong words.
Add the fear that your tone might be misunderstood.
And suddenly saying no feels risky.
Many learners tell us something similar.
They say, I know what I want to say, but I don't know how to say it politely.
Or, I'm afraid my no will sound too strong.
Or, I don't want to explain too much, but I don't want to hurt anyone either.
What's important to understand is this.
The difficulty here is not your English level.
It's not pronunciation.
It's not grammar.
It's the social side of language.
English, like every language, has unspoken rules.
And one of those rules is that refusal is usually softened, not hidden, but gently wrapped in respect.
When learners don't know this, they often swing between two extremes.
They are either too direct and feel rude.
They are too indirect and feel dishonest.
Neither feels good.
And over time, this creates stress.
You start avoiding situations.
You delay answers.
You agree to things that drain your energy.
And quietly, confidence starts to shrink.
That's why this episode exists.
Not to teach you fancy expressions,
Not to turn you into someone who says no all the time.
but to help you feel calm when you need to be honest.
To help you understand that polite refusal is a normal, healthy part of communication in English.
And that you don't need to defend your boundaries with long stories or emotional explanations.
In this conversation, we'll move slowly.
We'll look at how English handles refusal.
We'll listen to real situations.
We'll practice language that feels natural, not forced.
If you've ever agreed to something and later felt tired, frustrated, or a little disappointed in yourself, this episode is for you.
And if you've ever stayed quiet when you wanted to speak, we're glad you're here.
Because learning how to say no politely is not about being less kind.
It's about being clear, respectful, and honest at the same time.
And that's where real communication begins.
Now that we've talked about why saying no feels heavy, let's slow down and look at how English actually handles refusal. Because once you understand the pattern, a lot of that fear begins to soften.
Many learners believe the problem is the word no itself, but the truth is, English speakers use the word all the time, just rarely on its own, especially in social situations.
When someone asks you for something and you answer with a single word, no, the message is clear, but the feeling around it can sound sharp, distant, or emotionally closed.
And this is where confusion often starts, because learners think, but I was honest. And they're right. Honesty is there. But English conversation usually balances honesty with tone.
What English does, instead of hiding refusal, is soften it.
Not to lie,
Not to manipulate.
but to protect the relationship.
This is an important idea.
In English, saying no is less about rejecting the request and more about managing the moment.
That's why you often hear small words before the refusal even arrives.
Words like sorry, thanks, or I'd love to.
These words don't change the meaning.
They change how the meaning lands.
Think about this difference.
Someone says, "Can you help me tomorrow?"
Option 1, no, I can't.
Option 2, "Sorry, I can't tomorrow."
Both are honest.
Both are clear.
But the second one sounds human.
It sounds like someone who considered the request, not someone who dismissed it.
This is why polite refusal in English often follows a quiet structure, even when speakers don't realize they're using one.
There is usually a soft opening,
Then the no.
and sometimes a short reason.
Not always, but often.
The soft opening acts like a cushion.
It tells the listener, I heard you.
I respect you.
I'm not pushing you away.
And once that feeling is clear, the no feels easier to accept.
One mistake learners often make is thinking they need to explain everything.
They start telling long stories.
They give too many details.
They apologize again and again.
But in English, long explanations can feel uncomfortable.
They can even sound like excuses.
Short reasons feel more confident.
They sound like decisions, not debates.
For example,
I can't today, I'm busy.
that's enough.
You don't need to say why you're busy.
You don't need to justify your time.
Polite English respects boundaries when they're stated calmly.
Another important point is tone.
A simple sentence can sound very different depending on how it's said.
A gentle voice, a small pause, a relaxed pace, all of these signal respect.
That's why reading phrases is not enough.
You need to feel the rhythm.
And that's what we'll practice later in this episode. For now, remember this.
English does not expect you to agree with everything,
It expects you to be clear without being harsh.
to be polite without disappearing.
To say no in a way that still keeps the door open.
Once you understand this balance, the word no stops feeling dangerous.
It becomes just another part of conversation.
And from here, we can start using it naturally, in real situations with real people.
Now that we've talked about how polite refusal works in English, let's stay close to everyday life. Because this is where saying no usually happens, in small moments that feel ordinary but somehow carry pressure, especially when you don't have time to think.
These are the moments when someone asks something casually, maybe with a smile, and inside you already know your answer, but your mind starts racing, searching for the right words, worried about tone, worried about how it will sound.
So imagine a friend says, "Do you want to come out tonight?" And immediately you feel that quiet resistance. Not because you dislike your friend, but because you're tired, or you need space, or you just don't want to go.
In that moment, you don't need a story, and you don't need to perform politeness. You can simply say, not tonight, but thanks for asking, and then stop, because that sentence already does everything it needs to do.
It says no, it shows appreciation, and it closes the door gently, without making it awkward.
You could also say, I'm going to stay in tonight, which sounds calm and settled, like a decision you're comfortable with.
sometimes the other person pushes a little, not in a bad way, just with enthusiasm. And they say something like, "Come on, just for a bit." And this is where many learners feel trapped, because they think they must now negotiate.
But you don't. You can simply repeat your boundary in a soft way, saying, "I know, but I really don't feel like going out tonight." And notice how that sentence doesn't attack, doesn't explain too much, and doesn't invite an argument.
Now, think about family situations, which often feel heavier because emotion and obligation are mixed together. And someone says, "Can you help me with this today?" when you honestly can't.
Here, you can say, "I can't today, but I can help another time." And that one sentence respects the relationship while still protecting your time.
You could also say, "I'm not able to do it today," which sounds simple, clear, and adult.
There's also a category of requests that come from people you're friendly with, but not close to, like neighbors, classmates, or casual acquaintances, and these often feel uncomfortable because you don't know how much explanation is expected.
If someone like that asked, "Can you help me with this?" and the answer is no, you can say, "Sorry, I can't help with that," and stop there, because that sentence is complete.
If you want to soften it slightly, you can say, "Sorry, I can't help with that right now," which sounds polite without opening the door to pressure.
Text messages create another layer of stress because there's no voice, no facial expression, and learners often feel the need to write too much.
But short, clear messages are normal in English. So if someone texts, "Are you free this weekend?" you can reply, "I'm not free this weekend, but thanks for checking," and that's enough.
Or you can simply say, "I already have plans," without explaining what those plans are.
One important thing to remember is that polite refusal does not require lying, and you don't need to pretend you're busy if you're just tired or uninterested.
You can say, "I don't feel up to it today," or "It's not something I want to do right now." And in English, that sounds honest, not rude.
What often makes saying no uncomfortable is the fear of silence. But silence after a clear, polite refusal is not a problem. It's a signal that the message is complete.
You don't need to fill the space, and you don't need to justify yourself again.
Once you allow yourself to stop speaking after your no, confidence begins to grow naturally.
And as we move towards the end of this episode, we'll shift from situations and language into something deeper, the mindset that allows you to say no without guilt, without fear, and without feeling like you're doing something wrong.
Before we close, let's slow everything down for a moment, because learning how to say no politely is not only about phrases or structure, it's about how you see yourself in conversation and how much permission you give yourself to be honest.
Many people feel guilty after saying no, even when they did it kindly, and that guilt often comes from the belief that good people always agree, that being polite means being available, and that refusal is somehow a failure of character.
But in real communication, especially in English-speaking cultures, a clear and calm no is often more respectful than an uncertain yes, because it saves time, protects trust, and prevents frustration on both sides.
When you say yes while feeling no, people may not notice immediately, but over time the tension shows in delays, in excuses, in unfinished work, and in emotional distance. A polite no, on the other hand, may feel uncomfortable for a few seconds, but then it settles and the relationship moves forward on honest ground.
It's also important to remember that confidence does not mean sounding strong or firm all the time. It means sounding settled, like you believe you're allowed to make choices about your time and energy.
And confidence grows quietly, through repetition, not through perfect sentences.
So instead of trying to remember everything you heard today, Choose 1 or 2 sentences that felt natural to you, sentences you could imagine saying out loud without tension.
You might choose something simple like, I can't today, or it's not a good time for me right now, and practice saying it slowly with a calm voice, even when you're alone.
Notice how it feels in your body when you stop speaking after the sentence, when you don't rush to explain, when you allow the silence to exist without filling it.
That silence is not rejection.
It's clarity.
And clarity is kind.
If you find yourself replaying the moment later, questioning whether you sounded rude or cold, remind yourself that politeness is not measured by how much you give, but by how honestly and respectfully you communicate.
Learning English is not about becoming someone else.
It's about expressing yourself with more ease.
And that includes expressing limits.
If this episode helped you see saying no differently, take that with you into your next conversation, not as pressure, but as quiet support.
You don't need to change everything at once.
One clear no is enough for today.
Thank you for spending this time with us.
And thank you for trusting
Power English Speaking
as part of your learning journey.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Take care.